Welcome back to Plot 27 Recaps. At an airport, a security officer catches a man smoking. His name is Dan. Before heading to his flight, he stuffs a damaged power bank into his checked suitcase. As boarding begins, Captain Richard, better known as Rich, prepares to fly a Northeastern Airlines flight from Los Angeles to Shanghai. His first officer, Ben, waits at the gate while Rich undergoes a random security screening. Meanwhile, Dan lies to airport security, claiming there are no batteries or power banks inside his luggage. On his way to the gate, Ben meets a nervous little girl named Cora and her father, Declan. Cora is terrified of flying, so Ben tries to calm her down by joking that hippos are far more dangerous than airplanes. Moments later, Cora's stepbrother, Finn, arrives with their mother, Jaya. Before boarding, Jaya clips a GPS tracker onto Finn, and Declan asks Cora to keep an eye on her little brother throughout the flight. Elsewhere, Lily and her esports team are also flying to Shanghai. While waiting for her teammates, she's harassed by a drunk college wrestler named Hutch. His teammate, Jesse, quickly apologizes for his behavior. The situation nearly turns into a fight when Lily's teammate, Sam, steps in, but Coach Date arrives just in time and pulls Hutch away. Before departure, Ben notices that the aircraft's recirculation fan has been reported as inoperative. Legally, the plane isn't supposed to leave until it's repaired. However, Rich insists the problem has been resolved after resetting the system. After flight attendant Penny finishes the safety demonstration, the aircraft finally takes off. Ben is a former Air Force pilot who was forced out because of a superior officer's misconduct. Now, he flies commercial airliners to support his wife and son. While Rich takes a short break from the cockpit, Ben remains at the controls with another crew member. At the same time, Dan's damaged power bank suddenly bursts into flames inside the cargo hold. Finn goes looking for his parents, who are both in the restroom. Instead, he meets a passenger named Matt, who invites him to play a game. Seconds later, Ben receives a warning that a fire has broken out in the cargo compartment. He immediately activates the fire suppression system, contacts air traffic control, and requests the nearest airport for an emergency landing. The closest option is Guam International Airport, approximately 400 nautical miles to the south. After hearing Ben's report, Rich orders Hans and Macy to enter the cargo hold and put out the remaining flames. But as they begin fighting the fire, a massive explosion suddenly rips through the aircraft. The blast tears apart part of the cabin, sending the plane into chaos. Oxygen masks drop from the ceiling as passengers scream in panic. Inside one of the lavatories, Declan and Jaya are knocked unconscious by the violent turbulence. Throughout the cabin, flying debris kills several passengers and leaves many others seriously injured. Rich manages to regain control of the aircraft after descending to 10,000 feet. Leaving Ben at the controls, he informs the passengers that a fire has broken out in the cargo hold. As panic spreads throughout the cabin, Lily manages to rescue Cora. Dan, however, makes an unbelievably selfish decision and sneaks into the restroom for a cigarette. Without warning, one of the aircraft's engines explodes, ripping open part of the fuselage and sending several passengers flying out of the plane. When the engine refuses to restart, Rich realizes they have no choice but to ditch the aircraft in the ocean. Rich plans to land into the wind to reduce their speed, but Ben quickly objects. He explains that the aircraft must touch down parallel to the ocean swells to avoid flipping over. Realizing Ben is right, Rich changes course. Working together, the two pilots skillfully guide the crippled aircraft toward the water. Just as they prepare for touchdown, the plane slams into a coral reef. The devastating impact rips the aircraft apart, splitting it into 3 separate sections. Penny and Cora survive the crash. Without wasting a second, Penny helps Ben rescue Rich, who is trapped inside the cockpit. Nearby, Lily is horrified when something beneath the water suddenly grabs her. Inside the cockpit, the windshield begins cracking under the immense pressure. Realizing it could shatter at any moment, Ben and Penny desperately try to free Rich, but there isn't enough time. Knowing there's no way out, Rich orders them to leave immediately and seal the cockpit door before the entire section floods. With no other choice, Ben and Penny reluctantly leave him behind, hoping to save everyone else. Elsewhere, Matt, Finn, and a flight attendant named Zoe survive the crash as well. However, they're trapped inside another section of the aircraft resting on the ocean floor. Back in the lavatory, Jaya manages to wake the unconscious Declan, but the moment he opens the door, seawater rushes inside, rapidly flooding the compartment. Matt, Finn, Zoe, and an elderly woman named Becky are among the few survivors trapped underwater. Ben explains that rescue teams should be able to locate them if the aircraft's emergency locator transmitter, or ELT, activated during the crash. He prepares to swim to the center section of the wreckage to check it himself. Penny stops him. A former competitive swimmer, she insists she's the better choice. Before she leaves, Cora tearfully begs her to find both of her parents and Finn. As Penny swims through the wreckage, Ben and Cora suddenly spot a shark heading straight toward her. They immediately launch a life raft and paddle toward her as fast as they can. But they're too late. The shark attacks Penny before their eyes, killing her instantly. At another section of the wreckage, Sam tells the remaining survivors to move toward the rear of the aircraft to reduce the pressure on the sinking fuselage. Although some passengers argue with him, they eventually realize he's right and follow his instructions. Not long afterward, Lily finally reunites with Sam. Their relief lasts only seconds. A group of sharks suddenly attacks, killing both Coach Dade and Jesse. Enraged, Hutch blames Sam for telling everyone to get into the water and punches him. Before the fight gets out of control, Ben steps in and quickly breaks it up. Meanwhile, the trapped survivors are running dangerously low on air. Matt decides to dive in search of an escape route. The moment he reaches the surface, Declan begs him to rescue Cora. Before Matt can react, a shark suddenly lunges from the water and kills Declan. Realizing they can't stay any longer, Ben orders everyone to deploy the life rafts while he searches for the missing ELT. At the same time, Cora wanders off looking for her father. She doesn't realize a shark is silently closing in behind her. Just before it reaches her, Ben dives into the water and pulls her to safety. Moments later, seawater floods the cabin, throwing everyone into a panic. During the chaos, the ELT slips from Ben's hands and disappears into the ocean. Nearby, Sam rescues the unconscious Hutch, only to find themselves surrounded by circling sharks. Instead of helping, Dan blames Ben for the entire disaster. He even refuses to let Sam and Hutch climb aboard, claiming the life raft is already full. After enduring Dan's insults for long enough, Ben finally punches him. Knowing that struggling will only attract the sharks, Sam and Hutch remain perfectly still. Fortunately, Ben and the others manage to reach them before the predators strike again. Grateful for being saved, Hutch thanks Sam for risking his life to rescue him. From that moment on, the two finally put their differences aside. Deep below the surface, Becky tells Zoe to take Finn to safety using a flotation device while she chooses to stay behind. Later, the survivors spot an aircraft flying overhead and desperately wave for help. But the plane never sees them and disappears into the distance. After reaching the surface, Zoe discovers an abandoned life raft. Just as she climbs aboard, another shark attacks. As several sharks begin fighting over their prey, Zoe seizes the opportunity to escape. She manages to pull herself onto the raft, but her injuries are so severe that she soon loses consciousness. Below the surface, the water continues rising around Becky. Knowing she has reached the end, she quietly says her final goodbye to her granddaughter. Rescue coordinators contact the nearest fishing vessel to the crash site and direct it toward the survivors. After searching the area, the rescue team finally locates them. Just as rescue swimmers are lowered into the water, a massive swarm of sharks suddenly attacks. One of the swimmers is dragged beneath the surface, causing the rescue helicopter to lose control and crash into the ocean. Moments later, a fishing boat commanded by Captain Shing arrives at the scene. But even now, Dan thinks only about himself. To save his own life, he deliberately pulls another survivor toward the sharks, using the helpless passenger as bait. Captain Shing quickly realizes the boat can't get any closer because the coral reef makes the water far too shallow. At the same time, Ben suddenly notices that Korra is missing. Looking around, he spots her stranded alone on a piece of the aircraft's wreckage. Without hesitation, Ben dives into the water and swims toward her. After finally reaching Korra, he secures a life vest around her and begins towing her back toward the life raft. Seeing them surrounded by sharks, Captain Shing orders his crew to dump their entire catch into the ocean, hoping to distract the predators. The plan works. As the sharks swarm toward the fish, Ben fires a flare gun to keep them away long enough to reach safety. Together, Captain Shing's quick thinking and Ben's courage save both Ben and Korra. Meanwhile, Dan sits back on the raft, calmly smoking another cigarette as if nothing has happened. But karma catches up with him. Out of nowhere, a shark slams into the raft, drags Dan into the water, and finally gives him exactly what he deserves. With the immediate danger finally over, Ben and the remaining survivors are rescued. While heading back to shore, Korra suddenly receives a signal from the GPS tracker attached to Finn. Realizing what it means, Ben immediately asks Captain Shing to follow the signal. Before long, they spot a lone life raft drifting across the ocean. At first, it appears that Zoe is the only survivor on board. Then they notice Finn hiding beneath layers of covering to protect himself from the cold. At last, Korra is reunited with her stepbrother. Earlier, Ben had accepted this flight partly to avoid facing his son's illness back home. Now, after surviving the worst ordeal of his life, he finally calls his family to tell them he's alive and that he's coming home. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Plot 27 Recaps, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next movie recap.